In this video I'm going to show you the basics of PostTrans importing transactions. What you're about to learn is how to import an SOR, change the design, change some header fields, and then we're going to move on and import multiple transactions using and evolving the same template. So here's a basic template. As you can see, it says SOR as the transaction type, and I'm going to post into account vict01, and there's the transaction date. Now I've already got a series of stock codes down here, but I'm just going to add an extra one because I've got the PostTrans lookup enabled, which is in the professional version, and you can see there by typing BAT I get up a list of batteries and it's filled in the description for me. So if I was on the phone to someone, I can just add 4 of those that they want to order. I could also do a wildcard search, so I can type in ** bulb and it will bring up everything with the word bulb in, and I can order 2 of those. Now we can also notice that we've got 2 stock items we've put a number against. There's a switch in PostTrans system setup that allows you to ignore 0 quantities, so you can effectively create a template with a whole series of stock codes and just enter a couple of figures to post to those particular lines, and PostTrans will ignore all the rest of the data. Let's just add another quantity in there, so we've basically got a 3-line SOR created here. What I'm going to do is press Post Transaction on the PostTrans toolbar to post the transaction into Iris Enterprise. You can see there PostTrans read those 3 lines and numbered them as it went, and now it's presented me with a confirmation screen giving me a general overview of the whole SOR it's about to post into Enterprise. At this point I have the facility to cancel the transaction, and if there's multiples I may want to cancel my whole posting, but I'm going to press the Post Transaction button, which will pop the transaction actually into Iris Enterprise. And there we can see we got confirmation that 1 record was posted, and you can see down the left hand side it's now put posted in, but you can see at the top there after the posted it's actually got the transaction number it created, and indeed you can see there's a 2 and a 3, which is actually the line numbers of the actual transaction it posted. Because we've put posted in there, PostTrans will now ignore those lines, so if I try to post again it now says that transaction's already been posted, do you want to update it? So depending on a system setting we can actually amend that transaction sitting in the daybook as long as it hasn't been delivered. Okay, so we posted that transaction. Let's actually have a look at it in Iris Enterprise. Let's go to a sales order daybook, and it should be right at the bottom. There we go, vict01. And as you can see it created a 3-line transaction. Now if we'd had multiple lines in the description it will respect those just as if you had entered them into Exchequer. Indeed, PostTrans should follow the same accountancy rules as entering any transaction within Iris Enterprise manually. So all defaults are looked up, including the delivery date. So that was a simple transaction we just sent in. Let's look at adding some extra functionality to it. For instance, we haven't actually got the cost of the product or the price we're charging the end customer. So let's have a look at adding some extra functionality. Let's remove the posted, and we must best explain how PostTrans knows what's in each column. If I expand this section here, you can see we have a hidden section here, and we have a series of tags in row 18. PostTrans looks at row 18 for tags it understands the meaning of. These tags denote what is in each column of data. PostTrans expects to see the data from row 20 onwards. So for instance, this is the stock code, description and quantity. And TL posted is used to update the status of the posting and display any errors on a particular line. So we're going to add the net amount. So how do we know how to spell our tags or what all the tags listing are? Well, we could click on the help icon here. If we do that, it would take us to our website for the actual page all about transactions. All our examples have context-sensitive help on, which list all the tags. But we could also press the design button on the PostTrans toolbar, which presents us with a list of all the tags for transactions. So let's just go up to the top, and you'll see the first few are actually required, TL posted, and description. Description's a particularly important tag because PostTrans scans down the description until it finds a blank one, and when it finds a blank one, it treats that as the end of the transaction. But if you look in help, you'll find there's various other ways of posting blank lines or skipping blank lines. Anyway, we're interested in the amount, so we're going to put in the amount. There's several different ones here. These are amount, credit and debit is for nominal journals, and net value and amount are basically the same. So let's put in the net amount, and let's actually put in the cost price as well, which I think is further down the list. There's cost price, pop that in. So now PostTrans, when we posted before, actually looked up those values and posted the defaults. And we have another button next door to the PostTrans button which says Update Lookups. If I click that, basically PostTrans scans the spreadsheet looking for values. Now, in the case of timesheets, it looks up all the charge out and cost rates and fills them in the spreadsheet. So let's just press normal lookups, and you can see there it's looked up the price for that stock item, for that customer, and filled it into the spreadsheet. It's also looked at the cost price. Now, of course, we haven't posted this yet, so we could actually go in here and type over those figures. Maybe give some extra discount. Of course, you could use formulas in your spreadsheet to actually manipulate some of these figures. And now we can actually post that in. So let's remember that we put £40 on that battery. Let's post that in. And now if we switch back to RS Enterprise, we should see another new transaction which has got a different amount. And if we go in there, we can see the £40 that we just entered or overtyped over the value. So there we can see we basically learned how to add extra columns of information. Also that PostTrans looks up information either behind the scenes if not shown on the spreadsheet, but also can be used to populate and bring information back before posting. Now, as we started this video, we said okay, we're posting an SOR and we've got an account Victo1, but let's say we want your reference in there because the customer wants to give us their order number. How would we map that to go into RS Enterprise? Well, it's quite simple. All these header values are actually mapped in the system setup. So if I now go to the system setup, you see it has various pages. First one's all about registration. Second one's all about a few switches that you can turn on and off. There's the ignore quantity zeros and things. Also, we can turn off that confirmation screen and we can apply credit checking and negative stock warnings. Various defaults, if not specified on the sheet, we can have specified default cost centers and departments. And then we become to cell references. So we can see there it says C3 will be the transaction type, C4 will be customer supplier, and C5 the transaction date. So we want C6 to become your ref. So we just simply enter C6 in there and press OK. But I'm just going to move on to the next page. So the next page is some more variables, and you can see there we've got the delivery address mapped to F3 onwards. It's important to realise that when you've mapped something like that, if you added a column, say between E and D, it would affect these mappings. You have to go in and edit them. So you've got to bear in mind it's best not really to add any columns or rows to the top portion of the spreadsheet, but they can easily be fixed by editing or moving the data back to where you anticipate it or mapped it to. So we now have your reference, so let's clear those posted tags, and this time we'll post this. Let's change these values completely, and we'll post that in again, because now we should have a your reference on our transaction in the daybook. Completely different value, so that's the one we posted, and there's the your reference field. let's just explain another thing, important thing about PostTrans. Here we went in the system settings and various settings there. Now they are actually stored in a special template within the workbook called defaults. So every PostTrans spreadsheet, template, whatever you want to call it, contains a defaults sheet, and this is where it stores all its data. There is no need to edit this directly, and it shouldn't be edited directly because the actual user interface should be used within the setup window. But if you were designing your own spreadsheet, I do strongly advise that you find an example which works and cut out what you don't want out of it and customize that as a starting point for any project. Now let's customize this spreadsheet further. Now we do claim that PostTrans virtually, I can't think there's many transactions it doesn't import, transaction types it doesn't import into Exchequer, but I can simply change this to a SIN by just changing that to an SIN. And now if I go into Exchequer, we should see nothing new in the orders daybook, but if we look in the invoice daybook, we've now not got a new transaction. But now, what would happen if we wanted, I mean this is basically one transaction we're posting in here. Maybe we've got a whole series of items coming across which are for multiple customers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to demonstrate another feature which enables me to override the header values. There's a whole section under the design template here which says transaction override header, which now enables me to put in a tag called TH account code, which effectively overrides the value in here. Let's bear with me a second. Let's just do some simple rearranging here just to make a little bit more space so we can see, because what I want to do is I'm also going to add the TH your ref, which we just had. Now they're all going to have the same date because we're not overriding the date, but normally you'd probably want to override the date. So now what I've got to do is just enter some account codes here, and probably see that the lookup is doing its business. So now let's post those multiple transactions into RS Enterprise. Let's press post transaction. You can see there it's read the first row, which was for account APL01. Let's press post transaction. That's posted that one in, and the second one is for the same account, and the third one's for BICL01. And let's just go through there, and now it's Brito1. Let's just cancel out there because we can cancel out. Let's just posted 3 transactions. What I'm just going to do, just going to pop into system setup, and you can see we have a confirmation tab here. Let's turn off the confirmation window, and let's turn off the apply credit check because we might have a problem with that because I haven't checked the credit status of all these accounts. Now let's press post transaction, and oh hello, we seem to have put in an account which is actually a customer, sorry, a supplier here. So you can see there we're posting what, eight different transactions all in one go without the confirmation screen. Of course the delivery address would be irrelevant because they'd all have separate different delivery addresses. But the principle is that we've basically posted a whole series of transactions straight in from one template. Now, interestingly enough, the first 2 transactions were for the same account. I just want to demonstrate another feature of PostTrans is that as it goes down, what it does is it scans for the count and your reference, and if the date was here, it would do the same with the date. Any change in those values means that it's a new transaction. Obviously if there's a different reference, it's a different transaction. If it's a different account, it's a different transaction. If it was a different transaction date, different transaction. So for instance, if I now edit this, let's make the first 3 rows the same information within the account code and the your ref, and now let's post that. And if we saw, it basically posted the first three, if we look at that references there as I scroll down, you'll see they've all gone to 8491. So now if we pull up 8491, which must be 8491, it has 3 lines on it. So if we wanted to bring in data from an external system into Iris Enterprise, then we can do so quite easily. In fact, which brings me on to another feature of PostTrans, because if you go into System Settings here and you turn this setting on here, use Account Alter Reference to match off accounts instead of code, what the system will do is it allows us to put in a completely different account code. Let me just demonstrate what I mean. Basically, if they all had Sam on them, which just happens to be my name, and we'd brought the data in to that account with Sam in here, then effectively PostTrans will use that to find the account. Obviously it has to be unique, but it will use that to find the account. So quite easily we can actually bring in data from an external system which has no notion of the Exchequer account codes. PostTrans will do all the calculations in the background to change those accounts as it imports the multiple transactions. So I think anyone would agree that PostTrans is quite a powerful piece of kit, and you've only just seen really a little overview here, but it's important to realise that basically any header value up here is mapped via System Settings, and row 18 contains a series of tags, row 20 is the data, row 19 allows you to put in a nice little user-friendly description of what the data is, which can then be grouped and hidden from the user. Obviously I didn't put a description across here. The defaults are saved with the template, so you can actually have multiple templates booking to different companies. It is possible to actually chain the sheets to post one after each other, and tell each sheet to post to a different company as well. So you can all sorts of flexibility, plus you can add VB code and macros and formulas and VLOOKUPs to all the sheets. So suddenly the uses and the power just goes crazy.